Hope everyone's having a beautiful spring day like we are today. Nice 60 degrees waking up, high of 75. Perfect day to get some work done on our Z's. So if you guys have missed the last video, or honestly the last couple of videos, we've been working on a convertible that we just restored the underbody on, and now we're trying to get it to fire up. We got the engine and trans in last video, fuel tank. We have all the underlying things to get it fired up now. Now the biggest hurdle is to pull our old drift car out of the way, get the subframe back in it so it rolls, so we can pull the convertible out. Big goal, let's get this convertible fired up so we can start working out the tweaks and get it fully dialed in so we can send it off to Eric. So other than trying to get that thing fired up and all brought back today, we actually have another car that we're going to be getting fired up for the first time. At least the first time in my possession. And I actually figured we would start the video off with this. Let's start with my twin turbo that we just picked up. So I just picked this up. It's got all kinds of goodies. Got it for a heck of a price, and it's actually a 95. It's probably the most desirable twin turbo that there is out there. We winched it up on the trailer. Battery was dead when we showed up. Previous owner states the car runs, but we just couldn't tell. It may be just as easy as hooking a jump pack up, fire this thing up, and just hear it. That's all I want to do today. So enough of the small talk. Let's go find our jump pack and let's get this thing fired up for the first time. Packs acquired. I don't know if it's just because when a battery's dead it needs a lot more oomph, but usually even when my jump pack is fully charged, it doesn't always jump completely on a dead battery, that is. I don't know about the blue on green, but and again, I'm really just not a big fan of blue. I used to be back in the day, but I'm definitely more of a red guy now, if you couldn't tell. Oh man, I just noticed the cowl is not favorable. At least it's got somewhat of one on there. People always say that you gotta hook up one before the other, this and that. I have never in my life done that. I know it's a jump pack and it doesn't matter because you gotta actually turn it on. But even jumper cables, I don't know if there's really, it sparks for me either way, basically is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes if I can't get a good connection on the terminal with two, I'll just peel this back and connect it straight to this. She got power. This thing looks like it's got all kinds of security stuff in it and just extra gadgets, so I really hope nothing like spazzes out on me. Let's check the coolant, because that is the only thing reported, is that it has a coolant leak. Yep. Definitely top that up before we start, so then we can really pinpoint this leak, but I'm pretty positive it is the coolant lines underneath the plenum. So if you didn't know, there are actually emission lines that go from your heater pipes in the back that runs coolant all the way up and back for each intake to warm the air up. All out of that. Now we put at least 2 quarts in it. This thing shouldn't be terribly low. Let's at least fire it up. Let's see what it does. Make sure the clutch safety is working. Yep. One of my jumper cables actually fell off. Let's try this again. Much better. There we go. I don't even know much about AFRs. Is it like 14.3 or 14.7 that it's supposed to be? Sound bad, but either the condensation or it could possibly, may need valve stem seals, maybe turbos, PCB. It looks kind of bluish, but it could just be the condensation from it being a cold start on a pretty humid morning. Well, everything's working all right. We're actually probably just going to move it somewhere, so that way we can move some of our cars around, because we really need to get that out the way. tell me that doesn't sound freaking good. It doesn't have cats or resonators, it's just pure mufflers, so for it being that, it sounds pretty good. But then again, turbos are the best muffler. Hopefully you guys can see, but yeah, we've got quite the coolant leak. Yep, here it is. So I don't really recommend this. We're gonna see if we can just burp this off. And the car's not that hot. So if we do this, in theory, it should not keep leaking. If we relieve the pressure, it's not trying to push out wherever in the system that the leak is present. If you look, it's just dripping. It's all the residual. I just wanted to catch as much as I can so I don't like kill the yard off, you know? And I'm still so obsessed with the sound of this thing. I just had to make a little clip for Instagram. All right, now, since we got that joy out the way, we obviously know we got some work to do on it. I'm not interested in getting it together to drive it right now. As you can tell with the smoking and all that, it's just not worth it. I don't want to push it, potentially harm the motor, you know, whatever, because twin turbo engines are getting pretty expensive now. But what we're doing with it, I think I revealed a little at the end of last video, but we're gonna take that engine, it's going in our slick top. Because when we get that thing finished, we're driving that thing around the world. I don't want to have E85 everywhere I go to run twin turbo high compression, because I'm not on standalone obviously, so that's going to make it much easier. I did NATT swap a TT chassis before and got a pretty good return on it, so I think we're going to try to do the same thing to this, save it, keep it on the road, and just kind of bring back a nice kind of stockish example. 350 horsepower, a little pep in its step compared to, you know, stock. Yeah, so let's move on from that. Now we're actually on to this bad boy. I really want to get onto this thing to be able to pull the engine out and put it in the Black Z. We got other stuff in the meantime since then, so trust me, it's gonna happen. Let's go get our beer mat and our jack, and let's see what we can do about sliding this thing back in. It's wet, it rained a whole bunch yesterday, so hopefully we're gonna have some success here. We just went ahead and threw the subframe in because I think I filmed doing this probably 6 times the past 2 or 3 videos, and I'm over it. Got it all snugged up. We don't even have the shocks lined up here. I can't do it with these junk aftermarket upper control arms. It hits on this and I can't even get the bolt holes to line up. We're just gonna send it how it is. Bottom bolt's just finger tight. It's not even threaded all the way on. It is super humid outside. I'm dying right now. I'm just dripping everywhere. Probably just put the stocks on for now. These are good roller wheels. Rear wheels on. We're looking like a monster truck now. There's like an 8-inch gap. And something I'm not sure if I ever disclosed here. We actually don't have a shock up here. We've been sitting on a block because my dumb self actually threw away the other shock to the set because they're rusty. I was just cleaning the shop out and was only keeping the nice ones. So I kind of screwed myself. That's why we actually took the coilovers off of this and put them on that convertible. So we actually have a 240 SX. So hopefully we'll be able to push this down enough and just have it up in here somewhere, kind of like the ones in the rear. Nothing special. Well, we've just discovered, all the way maxed out, the 240 is like 8 inches too long. Maybe I could put wood on top of the upper control arm to keep it from going all the way up. I don't know. We'll grab a couple wood blocks and see what we can finagle up in here. Forget this dude. Now we're riding old school style, wooden suspension. Pull this out and let's see where we stand. I really hope this works. It looks like it is. It doesn't look like it's sitting on the wheel. Can it roll? Hey, it's moving. Sick. Let's play musical cars and let's see if we can get this thing over here somehow. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we can pull this vert out ASAP. I need to do a little bit of mowing and yard maintenance. Maybe I should start some of that first. Well, we actually moved it somewhere other than I anticipated. I wanted to put it here. I literally couldn't. I was pushing the car and it's so wet outside that I slipped in the grass face first, fell flat on the ground. Never done that before. But now before we really get started, I actually came out here early for a change, and well, I want to eat some lunch. What better lunch than a glass of milk and some Takis? Now is officially the time. I don't know about you guys, but I've been waiting on for quite too long. It's now time to roll this thing out. Fingers crossed the e-brake works well enough. I only got so much distance to stop. Ain't seen the sunshine and can't say 3. It's more like 180 dang days. It's finally outside. I'm wondering if we should tackle the first and most annoying thing we have on our pretty extensive list of things to do. It's bleed the brakes. That's going to be a whole ordeal in itself. There's a lot of, it's pretty involved, I should say. Thankfully I got a vacuum bleeder to assist a little bit now, but not that it's a big deal anyways. Pretty easy to bleed your brakes by yourself. For the sake of your viewing pleasure, we're not going to show you guys all this. We're just going to take the L, and we'll be back in probably 2 hours if it goes like it normally does. We've been a little busy the past, 4 hours or something. We honestly did not do the brakes at all. We ran out of brake fluid. We had enough to fill the master cylinder once. Went to the Dollar General in town. Brake fluid is $10 for 32 ounces. No thanks, I'm sorry. In the meantime, we just put the fender on. We got the bumper on, both signals hooked up, radiator, intake system, all that is actually bolted up. The bumper is fully secured now as well. We got a battery, we've got our windshield cowl up here, and we also just went and finished up putting our rear bumper back on. So in the midst of this, we put all of our exhaust hangers and our tow hooks back on. So our list is now dwindling. We probably knocked over half of it out today. Another 4 things on the list is filling fluid, so that'll knock it down pretty significantly too. We need to stop at Walmart this evening so we can stock up on a couple things. Brake fluid, some ATF, and I actually need some coolant since we just used it all on our twin turbo today. I'm not sure how much more we're going to get done tonight. I do need to check over my list and kind of see where we're at, what we can take care of. For today, pretty happy with what we got done. It may be tomorrow, I'm not 100% sure, but we will be back once we find out what we're going to do next. Scooped all of our fluids last night, and we've spent the last hour 15 minutes bleeding our brakes. But I'm not going to leave you guys out. So I see a lot of people don't know that you can actually bleed your brakes by yourself. It makes sense when you think about it. You think you got to have someone pump it while you have someone crack the bleeder loose, etc., but you actually don't. Let me introduce you guys to my dear friend, hydraulic help. And that would be a water bottle and a clear vacuum tube. What the heck, you may be thinking, how does that count as a person? Well, let me show you. Get everything set up where you're ready to bleed. Get a bottle of water here, submerge it at least an inch with some brake fluid, so that way when you open your bleeder, there's no way it will draw air back in the system. It will pull fluid up the tube. Mine's still well over half full with some old dirty fluid. That'll do us just fine. Once you have it submerged, make sure your brake master cylinder is topped up with fluid, and then crack your bleeder loose. See there, we got some fluid starting to come out. Now while you keep this submerged, pump the brake pedal by yourself while also watching your master cylinder. And you can watch as I pump the pedal. You can see those maybe you can see those couple little air bubbles. You just pump them through. And I did this all from a completely dead or completely dry system. And now once everything's full, usually I'll pump 14 times before checking the master to fill it back up, just because it helps me, keep everything full. But once you do all your brakes, at least 3 of them, on the 4th one, start checking it every 7 pumps, because by then you'll be moving much more fluid and you don't want to run that master cylinder dry. If you get air in your system, then you're at the mercy of bench bleeding your master cylinder, and that is not fun. Most of the time you have to take it off unless you have a fitting you can thread in to bench bleed it. Close the bleeder off, and now this corner is actually completely finished now. Since we're on our 2nd time just checking and making sure everything is good enough, if you're trying to bleed your car, you always want to start from the farthest from the master cylinder. So that way you fill that up with fluid, so when it's going to the ones that are closer and filling that line, that it can't go back to the other line, and then you just sit there and fight yourself forever. This is the bleeding sequence if you have a USDM or Canadian Z32. If you're left-hand drive, this is what you will focus on. As far as the ABS bleeder goes, if you guys are not informed about that, if it is a two-seater, it is right here behind your passenger seat under this little panel cover piece. It's the same on two-seaters. Four-seaters, it's actually in the trunk and has a secondary panel on it in the trunk. So you'll bleed your fronts first because you see your fronts are on this side, and then your rears very last because they're over here. Now, let's finish this thing out. We've been bleeding for quite some time and I'm ready to be over. It's about time to take the dogs out, and then we can take the next step into getting this thing ready. Maybe we'll go get some gas too. Also, one more thing that I forgot to mention. I actually discovered in the factory service manual, it talks about using this to adjust your rear e-brake or parking brake assembly. I never thought about that. I never really knew what this thing was for. Not all rotors have them, honestly, when you buy Z rotors, so I just seen these and I was like, well, that's weird. Sure enough, in the manual for 93 it says that you just use a screwdriver here to adjust it. So now that the brakes are all finished up, I figured what better time than to just top up the coolant while we're here. Top it up, I should say fill it up, because there is absolutely nothing in this system. Now we are actually playing medic over here on this parts store starter, because the housing had too much wobble in it, and I've actually never pulled one of these apart, so I figured why not, because I was literally about to chuck it in the scrap. So what I've learned is you can already see here, this housing right here, that's what I got a problem with. It moves, it separates, and I found out why. This screw right here is not tight. It literally backed out like almost all the way. And that was causing this right here to move the Bendix or spindle, I don't know, whatever engages the flywheel here. So that would cause it to wander off. Hopefully that'll be fixed, and honestly, I'm just running out of starters at this point, so I need to make something work. This is probably the last hindrance before firing it up, other than the shifter. So we're just going to tighten this back on. I'm going to grab our impact for it, but we can pick this whole spindle up here, and you actually have to hold the whole spindle. But up here, I'm not sure if these are the magnets that they use to start it, but you actually have to push them each back, and it's connected right here. But it actually sits on the bearing. Well, I actually ended up getting tunnel vision. We just got that starter in. The only problem is that lower bolt is stripped out. So to finish it completely, we're going to need a Healy coil and install kit. That's if we have to go that route. It may hold how it is, but I still would like to fix it properly. I did just do some critical thinking, and well, we're not putting exhaust or drive shaft on in this video regardless. So I need a shifter plate. The shifter support plate that always wears out and drops your shifter on your drive shaft. Well, yeah, I have absolutely nothing in that regards. If I can take a broken one and get it welded up to be like a solid mount, we may run that. If not, we'll just have to see if there's a way that, you know, we can make it work. Trans fluid was full. We popped the fill cap off and it started draining out a little bit, so that's good. We just went and grabbed our ECUs. Now, let's run to the gas station, fill this thing up, and see if we can try to get it fired up. If we can get it fired up, I'm gonna call this video a success, because there's just a bunch of little stuff that we have to do. Honestly, I don't think I said a word about doing this, but we got the driver door panel on. Door handle and everything situated. If it was, you know, powered, window goes up and down just fine. Interior's coming together. We still haven't messed with all the HVAC stuff. We'll get there eventually. But yeah, there's just like a bunch of little stuff like that that, you know, is very boring to watch, let alone do, and adds up a lot of time. So like me sitting here talking and rambling on, let's go get some gas. Cheers to filling up on some hydration or fuel, whatever floats your goat. Probably just gonna put 4 gallons in here just to fire it up, mainly because I have to ride up to the gas station again. The reason I'm not driving is, well, Again, I intended on saying something earlier in this video, but we actually hit a board with the front passenger tire on our daily. And apparently it had nails in it. So we bought a tire plug kit yesterday, and we're gonna repair it once we get this thing fired up. So once we get this fired up, I'm calling it a dub, because then all the other little things that need done are just purely revolving around that shifter plate. Now that we just put about 4 gallons in it, it's time to move on to the ECU. So since we used a manual wiring harness, we're gonna test the manual ECU first. This one I know went to the car in auto form, and this is the manual one. Now if my research was done correctly, this should indefinitely work. What I would like to do is figure out how to use the auto ECU, since this is my last manual ECU, and I really don't want to have to use it if I don't have to, because then I won't have one to test and diagnose with if I get into that position, you know? ECU's nice and snug. Now before we get too crazy and go cranking the car over, even before we apply power to the car, we need to make sure all of our grounds are hooked up for our ECU. First and foremost, we have one back here. I guess I should say wiring harness, not ECU. There's also another one right down here, and you have a double back here. So far, it looks like everything's hooked up. So, without further ado, let's see if the fuel pump primes. If the fuel pump doesn't prime, then we have some other more annoying issues to be chasing. That's when I'll be a little less ecstatic about this. I heard a fuel pump. Not sure how well you guys could hear, but pump did just kick on. Now let's also verify that our ECU is lit up, which it is. Maybe we'll let the pump prime one more time, and then we'll give it a little bump. Not gonna lie, I'm a little anxious here, nervous too. Since it smells like fuel so much, let's just check, make sure we're not leaking anywhere. Appears everything's all good up here. Check the underside of the car. I don't see any leaks up here for those 2 lines we replaced. Oh, and here we go. We definitely have a fuel leak. Now, where in the heck is it coming from? You know, I totally just remembered, I'm an absolute idiot. I plugged all this in, thinking I actually hooked my hoses up, and we did not even hook our hoses up, man. But as you see, our feed is just spilling everywhere. Let's secure this, and then we'll be back. This is why you don't have to do your projects. Always continue and finish what you're after. So we just made a little band-aid here, and we've actually looped our return line around, and we placed hard lines to kind of crimp on where the original hose was and to be able to extend it. Like right here is our feed, and this back here is our return. Same thing, it'll hook up back here, hard line, loops around, and then back into the feed. It's all plugged in. I do need to fix the wiring right there. Previous owner still. Let's see if it leaks. Well, I can hear it prime, and I do not see any leaks. Looks like we're all good. Let's ensure we have no fuel leaks once again. Even though we can see on the top of the tank, just want to make sure. I actually had to go grab the blower so I could sit under here and keep air moving and kind of evaporate everything. If not, it would literally just soak through all this and make it just come right off. Looks like we're all good. Time for that long awaited first start. Now, will it start? Drop in the comments below. 6 months of work. Okay, so next we're actually going to check our crank angle sensor. Maybe it's not seated all the way and causing the injectors to not fire. So I know it's not on very sturdy whatsoever, so we actually need to find a clip so we can secure this thing nicely right here. Our little clip bucket, we got a new clip on. Now let's make sure it's seated before we try to crank it over again. Can't forget that TPS. The only thing realistically that may be preventing it may be battery power. We may need to get an extra jump pack on there. Fires right up. I am driving a V8. Sounds like we're running on all 6. Now let's just go ahead and kill it before we get too ahead of ourselves. Sorry about the sun, it's just not in the optimal angle right now. Check the down low for any leaks. No oil, I don't see anything else. No gas in the back for sure. So far so good. It's kind of getting to the point where whenever we have to do anything like this Z related, I almost don't even second guess myself anymore. I just know it's gonna fire up. If it would have just not fired up right there, I would have been dead in the water. I wouldn't have really known where to start. I mean, I know where to start, but theoretically, just with what there is and everything being hooked up, then I would have to go in full troubleshoot mode, and let's just say that's never a good time. When you got to break out multimeters, you got to test every sensor, test outputs, voltages, analogs, you know, car starts. That's a huge plus. So now I really don't have any other plans with this thing today. I just had my big victory. We know it fires up now. Now it's just a matter of finding all the little odds and ends, you know, like radiator brackets, just all that little stuff. We're not gonna mess with the tire plug. I don't have to do that today. Maybe I'll start off next video with that, just because I'm sure that could be something some of you guys could potentially learn, or I don't know, just gain some knowledge, because I've never done it. I've seen it done. It seems super easy and I'm not really stressing about it. The biggest matter is to find where the leak's at. I don't know how well you can see there, but she definitely flat. Now I'm gonna go catch up, do a little bit of yard work. I don't know if you guys have really even seen this anywhere during the video. Got some old oil jugs we're gonna go take and have drained, donated, whatever, to the parts store so we can start clearing out this mess. And I just clipped all this so we can actually mow under it. But now we actually have to weed eat. Since we got the dub on this and we fired up our green Z, and we know what it's running like, you know, got an idea of its condition, we kind of know where to start and attack with that. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. Big stuff coming for this. This should be out of here soon to fix this. We're flipping this, and then this should make this whole very soon. Also, don't forget to hit me up for any Z32 related parts you may need. I got a couple parts cars and couple cars in parts in the barn. Stay tuned for next video. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. And if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below, and stay tuned for more Nissan related content. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.